What's going on, Jeromes? Beautiful Friday, back for another Q&A session. Thank you, everyone who submitted questions on the community tab. First up, Chase Essex. Do you think Ryan, the price is right, will step up this year? Well, he was wrong last year. But I like that they brought in competition for Ryan Wright in Seth Vernon, the 2022 UDFA at Portland State. They actually found him at a kicking camp, which is kind of awesome, man. But so Vernon has a huge leg, but in terms of like the soft skills that go into a punter, not kicking your coverage, angles, avoiding returners, holding, stuff like that, still TBD in that regard. So I actually think that Wright does have the inside track right now. He's probably like an 80-20 favorite to hang on to the job. But Wright, I mean, he's got to improve. And Coach Daniels, Coach Hatt has talked extensively that Wright just really faded last year in key spots where he was fantastic as a rookie. Frankly, he might have been the best member of the 2022 draft class, and he wasn't drafted, and he was a punter from Tulane. But last year, like across the board, metrics wise, like everything was down, and it just simply was not good. Touchbacks went from 1 in 2022 up to 7, so the touch just wasn't there. Way fewer inside the 20s, and his yards per punt return went way up. You could blame that on the coverage, but also was Wright putting it away from the coverage. I mean, there's a lot of things that just weren't good about last year, but hopefully Wright can right the wrongs, as it were. Either way, like, I know that Seth Vernon gets a lot of training camp highlights because, like, oh, look at him punt 65 yards, which is great. But if you're backed up in your own end and you just got to boom it. But what happens when you punt from your 40? 65-yard punt ain't going to help you there. I was going to say, what do you do at midfield? But I hope you go for it. If it's anything less than like 4th and 6 or something like that. Next, Nick Turneau. Do you think McCarthy going against the first-team defense is accelerating his development versus Sam Darnold going against the second-team defense? It seems more beneficial for JJ since he's picking up the playbook and having to go against Florida's defense, along with having to do this all with our depth guys on offense. Where I think that initially in training camp it was by design, and maybe to a degree it was to enhance Sam Darnold's confidence just a little bit, and then also give J.J. McCarthy a baptism by fire, because throughout most of training camp, it had been McCarthy and the second-team offense against the first-team defense, then vice versa with Darnold. But on Wednesday, it was a lot of ones versus ones, twos versus twos. So, O'Connell changing things up a little bit. And ironically, McCarthy probably had his worst practice since last Friday on Wednesday in the whole twos versus twos things, but that certainly is going to happen. But I mean, Darnold, I think that he's flexed enough. Like, he certainly corrected that extremely slow, sluggish start of training camp. I think that he's established himself as the starting quarterback, and we'll see what happens with with McCarthy. I mean, we've said the best outcome would be Darnold being good enough to start and be good enough to tag and trade next offseason. And J.J. McCarthy gets a full redshirt year to really work every single day, grind and get better, and all of his other cliches, and then just go from there. But yeah, I think that I love that O'Connell, he's not giving him too much, and he's not babying him. Like, he's striking a really good balance right now of every single day just putting a little bit more on McCarthy's plate. Yeah. Next. DJ Coda. Do you think Kene and Wangu will get any opportunity to shine at running back in the preseason? Yes. Whereas Kene was listed on the unofficial depth chart as running back 3, and that does track with what has gone down at training camp. So Aaron Jones probably isn't going to play at all in preseason. I'm fine with that. Ty Chandler probably won't play a ton in preseason either. So give King Kene some reps, man. And we've been waiting. Like, King Kene is obviously the best kick returner in the league. I think that his value is going to skyrocket with the new rules. But also, like, can he contribute as a home run threat in the running game? Just give him a couple snaps and just give him some rudimentary stuff. Like, just have him run outside zone. He can bust one. Put his foot in the ground. Like, he is a home run threat every single time he touches the rock, man. Yeah. Next. Lord of the Rings lore master MJ. I think I nailed it. What do you think happens to the Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, if Kevin O'Connell and Cam do not get extended leave after the 2025 season? So I doubt that they would go into next year as a lame duck. So either they get extended or even a one-year Band-Aid, or they just get fired. Like, I don't see any situation where they just go into 2025 as a lame duck. But let's say that they do leave and somehow, or they are fired. Well, obviously, regime change is tough on a young quarterback because new GM may not like the new quarterback. New head coach may not like the new quarterback. And sometimes it works out, but usually it doesn't. So I think that would obviously be the nut low, just worst case scenario for J.J. McCarthy. Also, like if bring a new GM and like a defensive minded head coach, and then all of a sudden it's like they're speaking Chinese to each other, like they're not vibing the way that O'Connell and his quarterbacks do. So yeah, but knocking on all the wood, hopefully we won't encounter that scenario. Lastly, the soggy biscuit, soggy bottom. Handy, just curious as to how you think J.J. McCarthy is progressing in training camp compared to the other rookie quarterbacks from this year's draft. So, I mean, there's always going to be a lot of woulda, coulda, shoulda, and haven't really like paid full attention to the other rookies. I know that Caleb Williams has put on the off-platform sidearm Mahomes throws, which is great, but we'll see how consistent he can be. And like we said, as a quasi-USC fan, every single snap watched him last 2 years, but he plays a lot of hero ball. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, and Drake May. So Drake May notably probably had the worst couple weeks of training camp, but he's become a little bit more consistent. I mean, hell, there was even talk that Joe Milton III had played better than him. But I think that the Patriots obviously aren't going anywhere this year. I think Jabroni Brisket should probably start. I don't think that Drake May is anywhere near where you need to be to start in the NFL. Jaden Daniels is going to start for the Commies over Mariota. He's looked good. He's had some highlight moments. And I just think he gets it. Plus, I think that his chemistry with Scary Terry is really going to pan out nicely. Penix has had some great moments. Has had some ups and downs at Falcons camp. Kurtz looked good at times. Kurtz really good in practice. And then also Bo Nix is still quarterback 3 with the Broncos behind Stidham, who's quarterback 1 for whatever reason. And also Zach Wilson's sort of fallen out of favor there. Shocker. But overall, like obviously, you run your own race. And McCarthy, in terms of if you needed someone to start week 1, taking out Caleb Williams, who was the number 1 pick, I would start McCarthy over all these other guys. Maybe him and Daniels, pretty close. Yeah. But obviously, we're playing for long-term and the future. But either way, I love the way that JJ's progressed. I love how he came in with an open mind and working his ass off and just getting better every single day. And that's obviously going to pay dividends for the Vikings long-term. But that's it. Q&A for this beautiful Friday. You guys are the best. You know what to do. Skol. Production value.